Hello guys, here we are asking the age-old question. Without the help of the US and Canada, can Europe actually win against Russia? Or is Russia actually stronger than Europe? 1. We are not using any nuclear weapons. 2. We're only using members of the European Union and NATO that are part of the EU. So we're not including countries like Switzerland or Belarus, because neither country are part of any alliances, are part of NATO, and we're not including countries like Serbia and Kosovo and the Ukraine, as well as no countries are part. We're not including Turkey either, even though part of Turkey is in Europe, as well as Turkey is mostly in Asia. So can Russia defeat the US, defeat Europe, or is Russia really a grass tiger? Russia at the very beginning would sweep the Baltic areas, yes, as these areas are very weak. The Baltic areas would be swarmed very, very quickly. To make so, Russia does not lose Kaliningrad to Poland and its allies. As well. The other area Russia would defend would be the Nordic areas. Russia would slightly advance into Finland. They wouldn't advance that far, as Finland is a very big country. The problem is, Russia can't really use Ukraine, Russia can only invade through here and here. They could also attempt to make actually, I forgot Russia also controls Ukraine, not Ukraine, Crimea. There would also be a naval battle. Yeah. Yeah. However, Europe has a much more powerful navy than Russia. Russia doesn't really control much naval areas in Europe. This is a big problem for Russia, as Europe alone has. Yes, Europe is far weaker than it used to be. And no, we're not counting places like Greenland. We're talking about Europe as a whole. The thing is, Russia's navy isn't really that powerful, but they do kind of push back Europe a little bit in the Black Sea as well. The problem is, Europe can't really invade Russia. Okay, the Germans and the French basically controlled all of Europe, and they lost to the Russian winter as well. Russia would continue to invade Finland as well. Yeah. The problem with Russia is that Russia's economy is not that great. Russia's economy is far less than the European Union, has far less people, has far less manpower. Okay? And at the very beginning, Russia would see success against the European Union and the European alliance. However, Europe would continue to seize naval areas and actually start to blockade Russia. They would also start to invade Kaliningrad and take it very quickly. They would also start to reclaim and retake their allies back. Russia was able to sweep the Baltic areas, but as they sown, Russia kind of struggled with the Ukraine war. They would probably be able to sweep the Baltic areas at the very beginning and parts of Finland, but they would start to be pushed back by the European armies, as well as Europe has far more people than Russia does. Yeah. Europe would almost certainly push back Russia here and start a joint invasion on Crimea. Ukraine would join the war to take back Crimea as well here, as they see Crimea as rightfully theirs. The problem with Russia is that Russia is losing this war. Because you gotta realize, Germany has 80 million people, UK has 60 million people, France has 60 million people, Italy has 50 million people, and Spain has 40 million people. Russia only has 140 million people, and Russia is not that populated of a nation. Ukraine would reclaim Crimea and go back to being a neutral country, as they're not supposed to be a part of this war. Yeah. However, they will allow European troops to pass through their territory as well, causing the Europeans to invade Russia. The problem is, despite the horrendous Russian winters, Russia is ill-prepared for millions of European troops and entering Russia. Russia is not this strong country like it used to be during the Cold War and World War II, and even World War I. The thing is, back then, Russia had a lot of population compared to Europe, the rest of Europe. The thing is, the rest of Europe have basically caught up to Russia in terms of population as well. Without nuclear weapons, Russia is defeated, and Russia will lose the war against Europe at the very end of the day. So that would be if Russia and Europe, if Europe and Russia went to war. I just do not really see a scenario where Russia wins against the European countries at this point without nuclear weapons, as well as we're not using nuclear weapons because then Putin can just nuke London, Brussels, and all the capitals, and just say we won. Okay, I know UK and France have like 50 to 100 nuclear weapons each, but Russia can just say, hey, we'll just nuke all your capitals and we win. Okay, well, without nukes, Russia is kind of not yes, Russia is still one of the strongest countries in the world, but Russia doesn't have and yes, a lot of these European countries are demographically unstable, and this war would definitely negatively impact these European countries as a whole, especially the Baltic states and Poland as well, as we have shown with Ukraine, as we saw with Ukraine. Goodbye.